In this video we'll show you how to use a UI search controller. We'll do this by adding search capability and dynamic filtering to a standard UI table view. So we'll just take you through a quick demo of the app just now. So as you can see, we've got a list of countries and the continents that the countries are in. So if we click on the search bar, you can see we can filter by continent, and we can also search countries like so. Okay, so let's get started. Just click single view app and then call it search controller, and then just save it wherever you want. Now we need to configure the app a little bit, because we're not actually going to use storyboards, we're going to do it all programmatically. So you can just delete the main.storyboard there, like so, and then come down here into deployment info, and then change the devices to be iPhone, and then under the main interface just delete main, and then uncheck landscape left and landscape right, like that. And because we've actually deleted the main storyboard, the app doesn't have a root view controller, so this view controller won't actually show up. So what we need to do is we need to set the root view controller for the window, and we can do that inside the app delegate. So window equals UI window, and then window.makeKey invisible, and then window.rootViewController is equal to viewController. Okay, so if we go back inside the viewController file, we can just change the background color to be red to make sure it's working. So if we run that just now, we can see that it's working fine. Let's add the download files. So if you look below this video, you'll see that there should be a downloadable zip file. So if you just unpackage that, you should see that you should get two files in it, country and country cell. So if you just drag and drop them into the project, and then make sure add to targets is selected, and then just click finish. Okay, so there's nothing exciting really going on with these files. This is just a table view cell, pretty standard. It's got a title label and a category label, and this is really just the data for the app. So let's go back into the view controller, and let's create the table view. So let table view is equal to UITableView, and set it equal to a block like so. And then let TV is equal to UITableView, and then return TV. So in case you don't know how these work, like this sort of block thing here, the return value of this block is going to be set, this table view, this variable here is going to be set to the return value of this block here. So that's how this works. So we configure the table view in here. So the next thing we need to do is set its translate, auto resize and mask into constraints to be false. That's so we can constrain the table view. You'll actually get an error if you try and constrain it programmatically without adding this line. So let's set the delegate equal to self, and notice that self doesn't actually refer to the view controller. That's because we need to change this to be a lazy var, and then self does refer to this view controller here. So then let's set the data source as well to be equal to self. And while we're here, let's just register the cell. So tv.register, and let's register country cell dot self, and let's just set its reuse identifier as cell. Alright, so then let's add an extension onto the view controller. So down here, extension view controller, and let's conform to the UITableView delegate and UITableView data source so that we stop getting these errors. So UITableView delegate, UITableView data source, and let's add the necessary functions. So number of sections, we'll just return 1. Number of rows in section. For this, what we'll actually do is we'll get all the countries. So let's just create an array up here. So let countries, and set that equal to country.getAllCountries. And if we look in the file for country, you'll see that the getAllCountries function just returns an array of all the countries, which is what we want. and then set number of rows in section to be equal to countries, and it is dot count. And then the last thing that we need to add is cell for item, like that. So in here, let's just make sure that the cell is a country cell. So guard let cell equals TableView dot DQ, and then we want this overload, the one with the identifier and the index path. The identifier is going to be the same as the identifier up here. It's just going to be cell. So set that equal to cell, and set the index path to be index path, the one that we get passed in, and let's cast that as country cell. Else we just want to return a standard UITableView cell, like that. Right, so let's populate the cell. So we're just going to set the cell's title label dot text to be equal to countries at the current index path dot row dot title, and then we're going to set the cell's category label to be countries again at the index path dot row dot continent, and then we're just going to return that cell. So last thing we need to do is we need to constrain the table view. So for that, we're actually going to add another extension onto ViewController, like so, and in here we're just going to create a function called setUpElements, and then we're just going to add the table view as a subview of this ViewController's view. So view.addSubview table view, and then we're just going to constrain it. So set its top anchor equal to view.top, and then we need to set the isActive is equal to true, and you need to set this for pretty much all programmatic constraints. So then if we just copy that and paste it 3 times, we can just set the rest of them. So we want to set the bottom left and right anchors as well, so we'll set the bottom to be equal to view.bottom, and then we'll do left, and that's going to be view.left, and the right down here. Right, so if we just call that setUpElements function inside the view.didLoad, and we'll set the background colour back to white actually, and we'll just run that just now and see how it's looking. So as you can see, everything's appearing fine, but the cells are a little bit small, so we can easily just set the size of the cells down here. So if you go down here and then you just type height for row index path, and then we'll just return a value of 60, like that. Now let's add the search results controller. So a search results controller is a view controller that manages the display of search results based on interactions with the search bar, and how it does that is that it communicates with a delegate protocol to let the rest of your app know what the user is doing, but you have to write all the actual functionality for string matching yourself. So we'll get to adding the search results controller just now. So add it as a lazy var, so lazy var search controller, and set that to be of type UISearchViewController, sorry, and then let s is equal to UISearchController, and make sure use this overload, the one that says search results controller, and set the view controller to be null, and then down here let's return s. Right, so let's configure this search controller a little bit. So first thing we want to do is we want to set its search results updater to be self, and this is a property on UISearchController that conforms to the protocol UISearchResultsUpdating. As you'll see, we'll get an error because this view controller doesn't actually conform to that. We'll fix that in a little bit. So the next thing we want to do is just set some general properties. So obscures background during presentation, set that to be false. By default, the UISearchController will obscure the view it's presented over, and we're just preventing this. So s.searchbar.placeholder, and we want that to be search countries. s.searchbar dot size to fit, s dot search bar style, and we want it to be prominent. And then let's add the scope button, so s dot search bar dot scope button titles, and just set that to an array, first one being all, and then Europe, and then Asia, and then Africa, like that. So these are your filters that you'll use to filter the array by the continent. So the scope buttons will just appear as a bar kind of underneath the search bar, and you'll be able to just click in each of these buttons if you want to filter them by different continents. Last thing what we want to do is let's set the search bar delegate. So s dot search bar dot delegate is equal to self, like that. So let's conform to these protocols. It's quite simple to conform to the protocols. All we need to do is create two separate extensions. So in the first extension, we'll conform to the UI search bar delegate protocol, and in the second extension, we'll conform to the UI search results updating protocol. Okay, and in here we just need to create one function, so it'll be the update search results. And then in the UI search bar delegate, we just need to create one function as well, and that's selected scope button index did change, like that. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to create a general function up here, just like a helper function, that will take our array of countries and filter it down using a certain search text string and the scope. So what we'll do actually is we'll create another array up here, so we'll say var filtered countries and set that equal to an array of type country and initialize it. Okay, and then just create a function down here, so func, and we'll call it filter content for search text, like that. And in here we just want to take two parameters. The first parameter we want to take is the actual search text itself, and the second one is the current scope that we're in. And by default that'll be all. Right, so in here we just want to set the filtered countries array to be equal to countries.filter. Now, in case you don't know, filter returns an array of elements that pass your filter conditions specified in this closure. You can read more about filters online, there's hundreds of stuff on it. So in here, we just want to create a country variable, like that. And then we want to say let does category match scope equals all, or country.continent equals scope. Right, so this checks to see if the continent of the country matches the continent passed in via the scope bar, or if the scope bar is set to all. So that's all this does, it's just a boolean. And then what we want to do is we want to actually, before we go any further, we want to create another helper function that's going to check if the search bar is empty or not. So func is search bar empty, and that just returns a boolean, like that. And then it's quite simple, just return search controller dot search bar dot text dot is empty, and if there's nothing in that, just return true. Right, so let's just use that new function that we created. So if the search bar is empty, what we want to do is we just want to return does category match else. So if the search bar is empty, if there's no search conditions, but it matches the category. It matches the category that we've currently selected, then it'll return true, so it'll add it to the filtered countries array. So that's all that does. Else what we want to do is we want to check that the category matches, and that the country dot title dot lowercase contains search text dot lowercase. And the reason we're setting it to dot lowercase is we don't want the font case to matter, so we want a small a to match with a capital A and vice versa. And then after we've done all that, let's just reload the data. So that's the string matching done, and then we can actually put this function to use. So let's go back down here into this selected scope button function, and then let's put it to use. So filter countries with search text like that, and then we just want that to be search bar dot text, and we want the scope to be search bar dot scope button titles for the selected scope like that. And then inside the search bar dot text we actually need to do that. So let's just build that and make sure everything's running fine and everything's alright. So let's go down and let's work on this function. So let's search bar is equal to search controller dot search bar. Let scope is equal to search bar dot scope button titles, and let's unwrap that. And we want the index of search bar dot selected. So that gets the current scope. So let's filter again. Filter for the text and for the scope. So this function's called when the user inputs text into the search bar. So yeah, it's basically just calling the string matching when the user adds or removes text in the search bar. The next thing we need to do is to get the search controller to actually show up. There's a couple of ways we could do this. We could add it as a header onto the table view, but I actually prefer to add the search controller onto the navigation item. So let's go down into the view did load and set navigation item dot search controller is equal to our search controller. And then obviously we don't actually have a navigation item in this view controller yet, so what we need to do is go back into the app delegate and remove where it says view controller and just set that to be UI navigation controller with the root view controller overload, and set that to be equal to view controller like that. And then let's go back into our view controller file. Next thing we need to do is we need to update all of these delegate methods and data source methods so that they pretty much display the filtered countries and filter the countries and stuff like that. So what we need to do is we need to add a little helper method to determine whether we actually are filtering or not, to determine whether we've got a scope pressed or there's text in the search bar, stuff like that. So let's create func as filtering and set that to be to return a bool, and then in here let's just declare a bool. So let search bar scope as filtering and set that equal to search controller dot search bar dot selected scope button index is not equal to 0. So that will be true if they've got anything but all selected for the scope button. Right, and then we just want to return search controller dot as active and either the search bar as empty. Where is it? Search bar as search bar empty, or the search bar scope as filtering. So if the search controller is active and any of the conditions are met, then the user has added a filter. So then next thing we need to do is we need to actually go down to our delegate and data source methods, and we need to take this into account. So what we want to do is we want to go if as filtering, and then we just want to return the filtered countries dot count, because that array will be populated if they are filtering, and if not we just want to return the countries count. So then let's go down here and we'll create a current country variable. So let current country as of type country, and then if they are filtering, what we want to do is we want to set the current country equal to the filtered countries at the index path.row, and if they're not, then we just want to set the current country equal to the regular countries array at the index path.row. And then let's go down here and use that. So set the title label text to the current country.title, and set the category label text to the current country.continent. And if we run that, everything should be looking fine. So you can see that all the cells are displaying, and if you just swipe up, or you just scroll down, sorry, on the table view and click on the search bar, and then if you want to filter countries or continents, you can just click on each of the scope buttons, and let's say we want to go to all and we want to search for all the countries that have the letter A in it. It will show all the countries with the letter A in it. If we want to see all the countries with the letter A in it in Asia, then we just click the Asia scope button. So that's been it for this tutorial. That's how you use a search controller.